So will the Nirbhaya Convicts, the four adult men convicted of the gang rape and murder back in 2012, can these 4 men be actually hanged on the 22nd of January at 7 a.m. as a trial court had passed an order back on 7th of January? Well, this debate has been going on for a while, but from what we can see from today's hearings, it looks like that's not going to take place. Now, as most of you will be aware, the Supreme Court had upheld not just the conviction but also the death sentence for all these 4 men back in 2017. Now, they had not filed mercy petitions and review petitions for quite a while, and that's sort of where this whole delay in the process seems to have come from and why there are problems, why it's had to end up going back to the courts. Now, what's the latest developments obviously which had taken place were that on 7th January, the Sessions Court in Patiala House had said that, look, we are going to order the issue of the execution warrant, the death warrant or the black warrant as it's called, which would lead to their hanging. And it specified a date for the hanging, which was 22nd January, and they also said what time, which was 7 a.m. Now, the problem, of course, is at this stage, not every sort of legal and administrative remedy for these 4 convicts has yet been exhausted. Yes, their appeal in the main case obviously has been rejected. Their review against the Supreme Court decision has also been rejected, and yet there still are some options. Now, the 2 options left are what we call curative petitions, which is sort of a last stop kind of thing which the Supreme Court allows in the event that there's any risk of a gross injustice taking place, and then there's the mercy petitions, which obviously are there to the President of India. Now, in this case, as we said, all the convicts' review petitions have gone. 2 of them have filed curative petitions which have now been dismissed, whereas 2 still have not, and only 1 of them so far has filed a mercy petition. So now it is that person, Mukesh Singh, who approached the Delhi High Court yesterday and then the Delhi Sessions Court today, asking for a stay on that execution warrant which was issued back on the 7th of January. Now, there was a huge debate now at this point as to when exactly the execution can take place if a death warrant has already been issued. Now, what the argument raised by lawyers for Singh, both at the Delhi High Court and then today in the Patiala House Court, was that, look, once that's there, if we look at what the Supreme Court has held back in 2013 in the Shatrughan Chauhan case, there has to be 14 days from the rejection of the mercy plea to the time when the person can be executed. So you cannot execute someone till at least 14 days have passed from the time their mercy plea is rejected. In this case, since there are curative petitions left, there's at least 1 mercy petition already pending before the President. Can this actually be done? Now, what's going on at this point is that the court said, look, we don't really have the power to review the execution warrant, but actually there is a power with the Delhi Jail Authority. So if we look at the Delhi Jail Manual of 2018, it, in compliance with those rules which are laid down by the Supreme Court, also acknowledges that there cannot be an execution of a person till such time as it's been at least 14 days before after their mercy plea has been rejected. Now, in consonance with that, if there's a situation where a mercy plea has been filed at this point, even though it may be beyond time as has taken place, the jail authorities have to inform the Delhi government that this is the situation, a mercy plea has been filed, and should we now be postponing the scheduled date of execution. In the meanwhile, till they receive any response from the Delhi government, they have to have a sort of stay on the execution. They cannot execute the person. Now, in this case, the Delhi government has already indicated that it will actually not be sort of condoning the execution of these people before all those mercy petitions are heard. So at this stage, it's very clear that it's not the execution of the convicts is not going to happen on the 22nd of January. As of now, the court said, as we said, couldn't interfere itself, but it said, okay, look, if you're saying you've sent this intimation as required by the Delhi Jail Manual to the Delhi government, make sure you send us all the details, because currently the documentation before the Delhi court is not sufficient. The basic sum and substance is that right now there's still 1 mercy petition which is still now has finally reached the Home Ministry and will eventually get to the President of India, which has to first be rejected. Then there's 2 more curative petitions to reject. Then there's another 3 mercy petitions for the President to consider before there's any chance that these convicts could be executed. And they could utilize the time gap as well, that while there's after 14 days after 1 rejection, within the 14 days, the others could try and see when they file their petitions. So there is still a long way to go. That's the main sort of highlight of things right now. We'll learn a bit more about what exactly the Delhi government's timeline is maybe tomorrow at the next hearing. So stay tuned to the Quint for all those updates.